Letting go of fear. Buddhist teachings for a courageous life. Do you ever feel like you're standing at the edge of a vast ocean of what-ifs? The fear of stumbling, of falling short. It's a universal echo in the chambers of the human heart. But what if I told you that within that perceived failure lies not defeat, but an extraordinary opportunity for growth and liberation? What if the very things we fear are the very paths that guide us to our true potential? In this video, we're diving deep into the ancient wisdom of Buddhism to unravel the subtle threads of fear and illuminate the path toward a fearless, peaceful existence. We'll explore how the impermanence of life, the illusion of self, and the power of mindful practice can transform our relationship with failure, turning stumbling blocks into stepping stones toward enlightenment. This isn't about chasing rainbows. It's about finding the divine within the ordinary chaos. Are you ready to embark on this journey to discover the quiet strength that dwells within you? If so, comment ready below and let's step onto this transformative path together. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because this is just the beginning. Let's open the doors to inner peace together. Welcome, seekers of truth. In the dance of existence, we often find ourselves tangled in a web of expectations, desires, and fears. The fear of failure, in particular, can feel like a heavy cloak, suffocating our spirit and clouding our vision. But what if we could view this fear not as an enemy, but as a profound teacher, offering invaluable lessons on the path of awakening? Let's delve deeper into this journey, using the lamp of Buddhist philosophy, while grounding it in the daily lives we lead. The roots of fear, attachment, and the illusion of self in Buddhist thought. Fear is seen as a direct consequence of attachment clinging to specific outcomes, praise, and the illusion of certainty. We build our lives on foundations of should and must, becoming entangled in the sticky web of desire. We are attached to the self, to the ego that craves validation and status, and this very attachment is the source of our suffering. We tell ourselves stories about who we are supposed to be, constantly measuring ourselves against external standards. When we fall short of these imagined ideals, the crushing weight of disappointment and fear descends. Think of it like this. Imagine a child who is given a brand new toy. They are overjoyed, their heart alight with happiness. But that joy is fragile and conditional. What happens if the toy is broken? The child is immediately consumed by grief, anger, and sadness. The joy that once existed has become a source of suffering. This is the nature of attachment. It binds us to the illusion of permanence, leaving us vulnerable to the inevitable pains of impermanence. In the same way, we may believe success is a trophy we must relentlessly pursue, a fixed destination we must reach. Yet, life has its own rhythms, its own ever-shifting patterns. The Buddha used the word upadana to describe this grasping, and it is the root of so much anguish. The Buddha also taught about anatman, the doctrine of no self. This isn't about denying our existence, but understanding the impermanent, ever-changing nature of the ego. The self that we cling to is merely a collection of constantly shifting sensations, thoughts, and emotions. This understanding can be profoundly liberating. When we realize that our sense of self is not a solid, fixed entity, the fear of failure loses its power over us. We begin to see that our worth is not determined by our accomplishments, but by our inherent nature as beings of love and compassion. The dance of impermanence, the concept of anicca impermanence, is central to understanding our relationship with failure. Just as the seasons change, so do our lives. Successes and failures are not fixed points, but rather ephemeral moments in the continuous flow of existence. Imagine yourself sitting by a riverbank, watching the water ceaselessly moving past you. Each moment is fresh and new, and what flowed before will never return. This is the same with failure. It is not an absolute state of being. It is not a definition of who we are. It is simply one experience amongst many. When we become attached to an image of ourselves that cannot fail, we resist the natural flow of life. We resist growth. We resist learning. I've seen this in my own lifetime and time again, during periods of hardship and what I felt like was complete failure. I remember a time when I was pursuing a creative endeavor, pouring my heart and soul into it. I had attached my sense of self-worth to the success of this project, and when it fell apart, I was devastated. I felt like a failure, not just in the endeavor, but as a person. I spiraled into a dark place until a wise friend reminded me of the teaching of impermanence. She said, "Everything in your life will change, the good and the bad. Allow it all to come and go without judgment." It was a profound shift for me. I started to understand that this perceived failure was not a reflection of who I was, but a moment in the flow of life, offering me invaluable lessons. The parable of the farmer, embracing the maybe, the Zen parable of the farmer and the horse, is a beautiful illustration of how we might approach our lives, and particularly our failures, with equanimity and grace. The farmer did not view any particular event as definitively good or bad, and he was able to navigate the highs and lows of life with a calm and open heart. This, maybe, is the heart of wisdom. This is not to say that we must become indifferent, that we must detach ourselves from the things that we value and work towards. The message is, instead, to not attach our happiness to the outcome. When we are free from that attachment, we can do what we do with presence, purpose, and joy, failure as a teacher, the path to growth. Imagine for a moment that you are walking down a forest path, and there, in the middle of the path, is a large rock blocking your way. You could become frustrated, resentful, and let that stop you completely. But what if that rock were there to teach you something? What if the only way to get to the other side of the forest was to learn the valuable skill of maneuvering around the rock? Failure, in essence, is a path to transformation. When we view failure not as a sign of inadequacy, but as feedback, we can use our stumbles as a compass guiding us on our journey. What can you learn from this experience? How can this serve you moving forward? Instead of becoming paralyzed by fear, we can ask these questions and actively participate in the flow of life. Beyond the ego, cultivating inner peace. When we begin to understand the illusion of the self and the impermanence of life, we begin to awaken our true selves and find our inner peace. We realize that we do not need external validation to feel content, and we realize that the truest source of happiness comes from within. We are all beings of immense potential, and it is not dependent on our achievements, but on our inherent worth as human beings. As we cultivate inner stillness, we are able to approach life with more clarity and equanimity. The fear of failure loses its power over us, and we embrace our challenges as opportunities for growth. Our lives, instead of being a continuous struggle to achieve, become a profound spiritual journey that we can fully participate in. Practical steps, living with fearless compassion. So, how can we move from the intellectual understanding of these concepts to embodying them in our daily lives? Here are some practical steps inspired by Buddhist practice. 1. Mindful observation. Spend time in meditation or in simple contemplation of your thoughts and emotions. Instead of identifying with the fear, just observe it. What does it feel like in the body? What kind of narrative does your mind create? This mindful observation helps you to see that you are not your fear. You are the observer of your fear. Story. I once had a client who had a crippling fear of public speaking. Before every presentation, she would feel like a ball of anxiety. One day, she decided to try meditating before her talk and simply observing her body's reaction. She was amazed to see that it was just energy, not something to fear. She was still nervous, but she had a newfound understanding and the power over it. 1. Loving kindness. Direct compassion toward yourself. We often judge ourselves harshly for perceived failures, but cultivating loving kindness helps us to treat ourselves with the same compassion and kindness we would extend to a dear friend. Repeat phrases such as, "May I be happy. May I be free from suffering. May I accept myself as I am." Story. My dear friend was in a relationship for many years, and when it ended, he was completely devastated. He felt like he had failed, and his self-worth took a big hit. For many days, he would not even get out of bed. I finally convinced him to try a loving kindness meditation. At first, it was really hard for him, but over time, he started to treat himself with the kindness and compassion he deserved. He was able to process the difficult emotions and move through it with more acceptance and peace. 1. The middle way. Apply the principle of the middle way to your life. Avoid perfectionism, but also avoid complacency. Approach life with balance and flexibility. If a project doesn't go as planned, instead of falling into despair, look for new ways to learn and adjust. Story. A young writer I know was set on becoming a New York Times best-selling author. She was completely consumed by this goal, and when her first book was rejected, she was crushed. She was ready to give up writing completely until we talked about the middle way. She realized that success or failure did not have to define her as a writer. She started writing again with more freedom, more joy, and more acceptance. 1. Mindful action. Take small, consistent steps towards your goals without attachment to a particular outcome. When we act mindfully, with intention and presence, fear loses its paralyzing grip. It is not just about accomplishing something, but about moving through life with courage, wisdom, and presence. Oh, story. A man I know had a lifelong fear of starting his own business. He was full of doubt and insecurities, but one day he decided to take the smallest action of all. He registered for a class. From that one small step, one small action, he started a journey of change and growth. Your journey begins now. This is a path of continuous learning, and it is important to acknowledge that this is not a journey that ends at a finish line. It is about embracing life fully, with all its uncertainty and challenge, and finding the inner strength to navigate through life with confidence and peace. I invite you now, dear friends, to contemplate on this, to see where you might be able to make small changes, and I also invite you to share your stories. What has your experience with failure been, and how have you overcome it? Let's use this as an opportunity to learn, grow, and inspire each other on this transformative path. Thank you, dear friends, for joining me on this exploration into the heart of fear and the path toward liberation. I hope this message resonates deeply within you, helping you to see your own strength and potential that always lies within. Remember, failure is not an ending. It's a beginning, a sacred opportunity to grow and discover the resilience of your spirit. If this video has touched you in any way, please share it with someone who might need this reminder. And do not forget to subscribe to this channel for more reflections on wisdom, peace, and the beauty of awakening. Your comments are valuable, and your insights are an essential part of our community. So please share your thoughts and questions below. Your stories are a beacon of hope and inspiration for others on this path. Until our next encounter, may you walk with grace, embrace uncertainty with courage, and find peace in the present moment. Namaste, and see you soon on the next chapter of our journey together.